Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. You're so welcome and I'm really glad that you're here. Firstly, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who watched and commented on my last video, which I did with my boyfriend Cameron. We loved filming that video, it was so much fun and I was really glad with how it turned out, so I'm glad you all seemed to enjoy it as well. Reading the comments of that video was actually a massive ego boost for Cameron. You were all so nice about him, and if his head wasn't already big, it's now like... So today I'm going to be doing a 5 book recommendations video focusing on literary fiction. If you're new to my channel and don't know, I have a little series here on my channel where I give 5 book recommendations for different genres and different types of books. I will leave the playlist linked somewhere above so you can go and check it out if you want. I've done a couple of other literary fiction ones in the past. I've done historical fiction ones, classic ones, poetry ones, children's fiction ones, the list goes on. So today we're going to be talking about literary fiction, and as always I've tried to include a bit of a mix of recommendations, so hopefully there will be something for everyone and something will strike your fancy. So the first book that I'm going to recommend today is Adele by Leila Slimani. This is a quite dark, more psychologically literary fiction novel, and it's quite short as well. It definitely packs a punch. This novel is about a woman called Adele who lives in Paris, who on the surface appears to have a perfect life. She has a great job and a beautiful apartment, she has a surgeon husband and a lovely young son. But underneath all of this, Adele is incredibly unsatisfied and unhappy with her life. It is clear from the beginning of the book that Adele has an insatiable need for sex, whatever the cost this may be. This is a very inward-looking novel. The character of Adele is central to the whole book, and you're allowed a really incredible insight into her psychology. Sex becomes the only thing that makes Adele feel alive, and you really get to witness her desires and ultimately her compulsions and addictions as her life spins completely out of her control. Leila Slimani is incredible at writing really believable and interesting characters who you don't necessarily like but are fascinated by. Adele is one of the best protagonists I've read about in a long time. She felt so real to me and I wanted to learn more and more about her. The writing in here is also extremely bright and clear and sharp. It fits the book perfectly in my opinion. It feels very perceptive and chilling. This book is just great in my opinion. It has a really fascinating and well-drawn protagonist. It has really interesting themes that it explores and really electrifying writing, and ultimately I just found it to be really readable as well as being so insightful and intelligent. I couldn't recommend this more highly. I think it is such a unique novel, and if you are wondering, I think this is so much better than her other novel, Lullaby. Lullaby is a really great novel, but this is on another level. The next book that I'm going to recommend today is In Our Mad and Furious City by Guy Gunaratney. This is a contemporary literary fiction novel that is set in an impoverished estate in North London. A soldier has recently been killed, riots are raging across the streets, and everywhere is becoming increasingly unsafe. The novel primarily focuses on 3 young men, but it also focuses on some older characters as well, and amongst these characters we have a second-generation immigrant from the Caribbean, a second-generation immigrant from Ireland, and a second-generation immigrant from Pakistan. Firstly, I want to tell you a little bit about the structuring of this novel because I think it's brilliant. The entirety of this novel takes place over the course of only 2 days, and each chapter in the novel focuses on a different character's perspective. This structuring, combined with the fact that the voices in this novel are so clear and distinct with their dialects and idiosyncrasies coming through, means that this novel is so focused and so intimate. You really feel as though you were living hour to hour with these characters when you're reading this book. The setting in this novel is so vibrant. It really came alive for me while I was reading. I think that Guy Gunaratney paints a really clear and convincing picture of some of the main issues that are facing a lot of people in the UK today. There are lots of really important and interesting themes explored in this novel as well, including self-identity and family and different belief systems and cultures and lifestyles. This novel really made me stop and think. I found it to be so raw and poetic and powerful, and I would urge so many more people to read it, especially if you live in the UK. This novel isn't perfect, by the way. I could definitely tell that it was a debut in lots of areas, but I think it's still so worth the read and a lot of people would enjoy it, and I don't think you need to be a big literary fiction reader to pick it up. Also, if you are an audiobook fan, I can't recommend the audiobook of this one highly enough. There are different voice actors who read the different characters' parts, and they are so good. The next book that I'm going to be recommending today is A Book of American Martyrs by Joyce Carol Oates. This is a chunky literary fiction novel. This is for those of you who want to dive into something really fat and get to know the characters really well and spend a lot of time with them and really explore all of the things that are going on. This book is set in Ohio and it follows two very different families who become irreversibly linked. This book opens in the 1990s when an ardent evangelical Christian man shoots an abortion doctor, believing he is acting out God's will. The novel then follows the many years that follow this and looks at the two families who are primarily affected. This is an extremely character-focused, observant novel. So you just watch these characters living their lives over a very long period of time, and you do feel as though you're just witnessing lives rather than following any kind of clear plot. So it isn't fast-paced at all. This is definitely one of those kind of epic family saga type novels where you get to know the characters really well as they age and you just get so swept up into their lives. Sorry if the camera just moved a little bit. Technical issues. So the story in this novel also shines a light on some really interesting themes. The main points in the debate surrounding pro-life and pro-choice are of course explored, but there are also wider, more timeless themes touched on as well, such as family and the values we hold and fear and violence. Joyce Carol Oates is clearly a very skilled and accomplished writer, and this is evident through reading this novel, so I couldn't recommend it more if you're wanting a fat read that will make you think and will make you care. The fourth book that I'm going to recommend for you today is Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss. This is the shortest literary fiction novel that I'm going to be recommending today, but it is by no means the least powerful. This book is set in the north of England and it follows our protagonist Sylvie, who is a teenage girl who joins an archaeological group with her parents. So this archaeological group seeks to recreate the lives of the people in the Iron Age. So they live in old style huts and they forage their own food and they use prehistoric style tools. You get the gist. This book is very fluid and very boundary breaking in a lot of ways. It focuses on themes of the past and the present, and ultimately I'd say it is a really bold comment on the issues that we still face in modern Britain. The standout feature of this book, in my opinion, is definitely its prose. It's not very conventional, it's very descriptive and sensory and evocative. Throughout this book, the lines between what is pretend and what isn't, and what has become real and what has always been real, are extremely blurred. There is an amazing tension and feeling of uncertainty that is suspended all the way throughout this book. The events that happen throughout this book become increasingly dangerous and alarming as time passes, and everything culminates in this really shocking and thrilling ending, which I found to be breathtaking. The characters in this book are also really interesting. Group mentality is explored, gender is explored generally, masculinity is explored, morality is explored. I think all of the ingredients in this novel work together so perfectly to create such a unique and powerful reading experience. It's really chilling and really thought-provoking and addictive and bold, and I found it to be so rewarding. I think this is a really special book, and if you love literary fiction at all, then give Sarah Moss a go. And the final book that I'm going to recommend for you today is A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing by Emma McBride. My lighting is not my friend today, what a pain. So this is for those of you who want want a literary fiction novel that is extremely experimental in its writing. This is not conventionally written at all. It breaks some boundaries. This is a very challenging read for multiple reasons, but I think it's so worth it. This novel is about a girl and her brother who were born in the 1980s and who were brought up by their mother, who isn't very well and doesn't treat them very well at all. Our protagonist's brother has a brain tumour and she is constantly grappling with her relationship with him and trying to look after him, as well as being faced with many terrible things that happened to her when she is younger. Throughout this novel, we get to see our protagonist as a young woman, and we get to see how all of these things that she encountered when she was younger have made her into the woman that she is today. Before going into this book, please be aware of trigger warnings for rape, sexual assault of a child, self-harm and suicide. I think this book is incredible. It's very dark and it's very difficult to read, but it is also one of the best stream of consciousness style books that I have ever read. I don't think I've ever felt as in someone's head as I did when I was reading this book. Like Adele, this is a very introspective novel. It focuses almost entirely on the psyche of the protagonist. Emma McBride defies all grammatical rules to portray her protagonist's mind. The writing is very disjointed but also fluid, and I found it to be such a submersive and evocative and really intense reading experience. I think this book is really unique and really powerful. It took my breath away when I read it, and Emma McBride is clearly such a talent. Don't go into this book lightly. As I said before, it is challenging in lots of different ways, but I think it's brilliant and definitely worth a try if you feel like you want to give it a go. So those are my 5 literary fiction book recommendations for you today. I hope you enjoyed hearing about them and something struck your fancy. As always, I would love to chat about these books with you down below if you've read them or if you haven't read them, and also give me your literary fiction book recommendations, because literary fiction is my favourite thing to read. Thank you so much for watching. As always, everyone, you're the best. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you next week with my next video. Bye everyone.